What's going on, sci-fi fans? My name is Ben and welcome back to another episode of the Raider ATST here on Sci-Fi Wednesdays. We are moving forward today, guys, on our little Bandai 1/48 scale kit. And so far, this thing is coming together. As you can see here, we've got the lights on the inside. We've got everything more or less tucked into place. As you can see, they do work still, which is a plus. 2 lights on the inside of the turret and 1 light for a spotlight. So yeah, overall, it's not too bad. Not crazy wiring really, but it was very small spaces to work with, so it was challenging. But now we have all the exterior cladding all attached, so now I think we're going to go ahead and move forward on some scratch building, priming, and then painting, or at least starting the painting process. We do have to go ahead and work on the base as well, but I'll probably move that to another episode because I don't know how to work with terrain, so I'm going to have to do some research on that before I dive in. But anyway, let's go ahead and shift over here to the actual kit itself, and I think what we're going to have to do, we're going to have to mask off some of those clear parts, because I'm going to have to go over this with some primer. I don't want to obscure all those windows. Now for the primer, I'm going to go ahead and use the Stynylrez primer, and this is a gray color. This stuff has not failed me yet, so I'm hoping it's going to be great on this as well. And we're going to go ahead and mask off the 2 red windows as well as the spotlight on the side of the turret. That's going to hopefully allow us to go ahead and airbrush over the entire model and not have to worry about plugging up any of the clear parts. I'm probably going to go ahead and lean a bit more towards the gray tones, but I want to go ahead and put a primer coat underneath that because I'm probably going to have to do some chipping or something. And that color is actually going to be this. This is Hull Red by Tamiya. This is going to go down on top of the primer, but underneath the top coat of gray. I should be able to go ahead and maybe chip away at the top coat to reveal this primer coat below. I'm not really sure how that's going to work, but this is a very nice color, very similar to the German primers that you see on some of the late war tanks. So I'm excited to go ahead and try this out. And then of course we have to do a little bit of detail painting here and there. We have some other scratch building. There's some wires that come out of the front, like piping. Got to add those in, as well as, of course, the side armor plates that are scratch built. But let's go ahead and jump into our very first time lapse. We're going to go ahead and start masking off all the windows. Then I want to go ahead and start building up the last of the guns there on the side of the turret, the missile launchers and also the cannons. And then I'm going to go ahead and start priming. And again, I'm going to go ahead and use that Stynylrez primer. We're going to overcoat the entire kit. And well, hopefully that should give us a nice surface in order to work off of. So let's go ahead and jump on in, guys. Let's push this forward, see what we can do. Alright everybody, we are back and I went ahead and took the liberty of overcoating certain areas with some NATO black, hoping to add a little bit of contrast, but then I realized we're putting down a dark Hull Red color on top of that, so you're not going to see it. Oh well, it's all good. We're going to move on now and do a little bit of scratch building. Now on the Raider ATST, they have these 2 pipes that are coming out of the side of the turret that wrap down around and tuck up underneath the armor. So we're going to go ahead and add those. Got some wires that should work just fine for that. We're going to go ahead and drill out the holes here with my pin vise and just string in some of those wires. They have to be bent in a little bit of an angle and then kind of loop back up and then straight up behind the armor plate. That's going to be a little tricky to do, but I think we can go ahead and get them strung up and I think they'll look pretty decent. And now we have our first 2 wires all nicely inserted there into the model. They're just super glued, so that's all good. And we're going to go ahead and bend these wires down and make sure that they conform to the contours of the armor. There is a little bit of an excess armor plate that's just sitting on the side here, so I want to kind of bring them up and over, make sure they kind of bend and conform to that shape. Then once we get to the end here, we're probably going to have to bend it with some tweezers. Actually, I might need some thicker tweezers, but we'll bend that up and then we'll just trim off any excess and we're good to go. Now, both of these wires should match in terms of how they follow along the contours. At least that's what the pictures show. So we're going to go ahead and bend this one down exactly the same as the first one. We also have to do the other side of the wires as well, but that shouldn't be that hard to do. Let's go ahead and grab our flesh cuts and we're just going to trim off a little bit of these wires and loop them up inside. And as you can see, here is the one side. We've got 2 wires that are super glued up inside there. They drape around the contours. It looks pretty decent. Now let's go ahead and do the other side. Now, the right and left side are supposed to both match. I don't know what these pipes do, but in the images, they tend to be equal on both sides, and they're just secured down. There's no like straps or anything, so we've decided to use some super glue to go ahead and just tack these down to the armor plates. We can just paint right over these as if they were, overpainted and they're meant to be there. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on then to the rest of the scratch building. Let this cure, see what other damages we can do. Now, on the sides of the turret, there are about 5 to 6 roughly cut armor plates, and I tried to go ahead and use my brass roll that I have here. That didn't really work. I could get the metals to kind of conform and it looked pretty beaten up, but I couldn't get them to be secured to the side of the turret. My super glue for some reason wasn't strong enough. I don't have anything else that's stronger right now. I decided let's go ahead and change things up a little bit. So I've moved over to plasticard, just plain old sheets of styrene cut in a pretty similar kind of rough, jagged way. And I've actually built a few grommets that kind of come up off the side of that turret, almost like standoff armor. I'm not really sure I'm going to keep those. I actually think they're a little bit too far off from the turret itself. We might put a thinner sheet in there to go ahead and have some form of standoff. Now, the nice thing about plastic is it will bond to the actual turret itself. They will fuse, and I think they'll make a stronger bond than, say, like just super glue or something like that. I think this is going to be just fine. We've actually applied one of them. We're going to go ahead and make another plate here. And I've got a couple of strips of styrene to help that stand off of the other one so it doesn't look so smashed together. Of course, these are very tiny and hard to get a hold of, but we're going to go ahead and do up as much as we can on both of these turret sides. Try to make them as roughly hewn as possible. Just kind of have fun with it. We're just kind of winging it, But let's go ahead and jump into a time lapse, push on and get these armor plates all dialed in. And then let's apply some primer. All right, everybody, we are back. And as you can see, we have our ATST all primed and we have an overcoat here of that Hull Red. This actually looks pretty cool. As you can see, we've got our guns in on both sides. We also have our armor plates that are tacked in there with Tamiya extra thin. They look okay. We do have to go ahead and do a little bit more work on that, but overall, it's not too bad. We also took the liberty of priming the base itself, but I'm not really sure how to work with that just yet, so we're going to leave that for right now. Now, the rest of the painting job, we're going to have to go ahead and be very clever with that because we have to do some weathering, and that means chipping, that means rust streaks, that means a lot of grime and dirt, which I don't know how to do, to be honest. So that's going to be a little bit of a learning curve for me. It won't be perfect for sure, but at least I'll get a general idea about how to do that. So to start out, I think what we're going to do is use something that I've seen Joe use. I've seen a lot of other larger modelers use it like Night Shift and Plasmo and all these guys. We're going to use some chipping solution. This is the MIG chipping solution, and I'm hoping to use this right out of the airbrush and airbrush over different sections here on the model. Now, once that's dried, we can go ahead and take our gray color for the exterior, and we'll go ahead and airbrush over that with that nice gray color. Once that is cured, I'm pretty sure we can take a toothbrush with a little bit of water, and we can just kind of rub different areas, and that should help to pop off that top layer, exposing the primer color below. So that means we'd have that really nice Hull Red showing through with that gray. I don't know if it's going to work 100%, but that's the best way I can go ahead and figure out. Also, this color here is actually pretty decent for one of the legs. This has kind of this primer Hull Red color. The other leg is going to actually get repainted almost like a red color. Then we have the white markings that are going to be airbrushed on. So it's got a lot of different layers here. And I really don't know how to do this to make it look like I want it to look, but we're just going to try it. You know, we're going to have fun with it. We're going to learn some new techniques and just see what we can do. So this hopefully will at least teach me a few things about weathering, because I don't really weather vehicles, guys. I don't really build them. I'm an airplane guy, you know, but that's going to go ahead and do it for us today, guys. I think we have a good looking ATST here. We've got the primer color on there. We've got the Hull Red. We've got the armor plates. We do have to go ahead and add a few more wires and whatnot to give extra interest, but I think we are moving right along. Plus, we're going to have to go ahead and grab some easy line, and I want to make it look like these armor plates are just hanging by wires and whatnot, so we'll have to tie those off to certain areas, but I'll do that at the very end of the model. So I think we're good here, guys. Let's go ahead and just call it quits for today. Now, if you follow the channel, you'll know that I've also started my 12 Sprues of Kit-mas holiday build series, so that's going to be taking up most of my time. I'm still going to go ahead and try to get enough footage here for the ATST, continue working on that, and also continue working on the J2M, but I might have to pull these back just a little bit just to make sure I get my 12 Sprues finished. But until the next episode here, you know the drill. Go out there, get yourself some bench time, have some fun, build something cool, and we'll see you back here on the next episode for the Raider ATST. Thanks so much, everybody. We'll see you soon.